They're a nuclear-armed nation. Did you forget about that part?
Yeah.
They have nuclear bombs and intercontinental ballistic missiles. And it's like, you're going to have to deal with them, whether you like it or not. This idea of the ground pounders in Ukraine who are battling it out in the trenches, all of that is actually beside the point.
When they first invaded in early 2022, I remember watching Gonzalo talk about this. He was like, yeah, they're gonna win, etc. They're winning. And he was getting shadow banned. The American media wasn't reporting it because they didn't want the American public to know that, look, we're funding this war and we're fucking losing. It took years for the American public to finally figure out they're losing.
I'm willing to have a nuanced conversation about how long we should be willing to do this, how inevitable is it? But that point's not true at all. The overwhelming mainstream media consensus was that if Russia invades, it's all over. And then it was like, whoa, Ukraine, now years they've been
but they were holding back the figures and not being honest about them losing.
Ukraine lost.
I mean, they didn't, but
they did. Do you see the map in front of you?
Look at how much of Ukraine is not taken.
Look at all that non-red Ukraine.
The objective wasn't to take Ukraine, though. That wasn't
What was Russia's stated objective?
So if all they're interested in is the eastern portion,
it's the land bridge to Crimea.
They've been there.
They've taken it.
They've taken it.
Right.
So
we're not. What? Of course.
That was their purpose.
Of course.
That was their purpose.
I'm shocked
to protect the ethnic Russians.
The Russian objective was attained a couple years ago.
I don't know how
why
that
is there
at
still
all
fighting?
relates to what we're saying.
Again,
Because they can take more.
Ukraine wants
wait. Why is there still fighting if they achieve their
because
objective?
Ukraine wants the land.
Right, and
Well,
as long as they
there-
do,
and
the US
and
is
we just have to
providing
give
Yeah,
them
but that's what I'm saying. That then you can't. I take your point that they have the land seizures that they sought, but it's clearly not secure. There's a reason the conflict's still going on. Russia is suffering casualties from.
let's clarify.
From Ukrainian resistance.
Yes, Russia has secured its objective and is now seeking to defend its position.
I still don't know if secure, because again, it doesn't seem particularly secure. But
No. This map shows that Russia has taken control of the Donbass region.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. You're saying, look, it's not secure if they're still fighting a war of it. That's a fair point.
What I mean to say is they are in control of this territory as per the battle maps that are presented by the BBC and by Arcus.
No, we agree with that.
And so, of course, if the U.S. wasn't supporting Ukraine, the war would be over.
yes,
That I disagree with.
Well, I mean, they would still be resisting, but I think the resistance would be based on my limited understanding, minuscule in comparison.
They don't have the
they wouldn't be able to do anything. You know what I mean?
But they would. I think they're also receiving. Aren't they receiving even more from European allies?
Yeah.
Like, again, this is where
they get a lot of aid. Yeah.
Yeah, even outside the United States, my understanding is they're getting a lot of shit from the United Kingdom, the European Union,
everywhere.
And, yeah.
Sure.
So
because if those other countries, like if Ukraine sees this as an ultimate, fight to the death for their homeland, and then other European countries feel threatened by Russia doing this, and they're going to be supporting Ukraine somewhat already, and Ukraine's going to be fighting, regardless of if we send aid, I'd rather them have our aid and do more damage to Russia and maybe hold back some Russian aggression further than standing back and Ukraine gets even further.
Yeah, so basically that's a very bloodthirsty position for a progressive, isn't it? So
Yeah,
the idea here is
More
I
people would die
want
if Russia
American
could just
funding to go to Ukraine so that they can spend their soldiers, right, in what looks to be a fairly fruitless battle long term to get slaughtered over and over and over again so that you may not have to deal with the Ruskies later. And it's like, here's the thing. You're going to have to deal with them later, and here's why. They're a nuclear-armed nation. Did you forget about that part?
Yeah.
They have nuclear bombs and intercontinental ballistic missiles. And it's like, you're going to have to deal with them, whether you like it or not. This idea of the ground pounders in Ukraine who are battling it out in the trenches, all of that is actually beside the point. They're a nuclear-armed nation capable of intercontinental ballistic missile technology. It's
exactly,
like,
which
you're
is
going to
why
have
we
to deal
can't
with them.
directly involve ourselves militarily with them because it would be a nuclear war. But
Right, so spend other people's sons.
You're saying You're saying bloodthirsty. My point is, as long as Ukraine would be fighting, our aid can prevent more deaths.
Just to
How?
clarify,
No, it actually
How is our
creates
aid
more deaths.
preventing more
They can
deaths?
defend themselves
we
more
gotta clarify
effectively.
what-
Our aid is the reason why they even go. Why they're fighting.
Like
We
when
gotta
they have
clarify
certain
one
equipment
point.
that allows them to not even have to send troops, like whatever Biden recently sort of sent.
Let's clarify something. It was the U.S. that sunk the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. You can say Ukraine pulled the trigger, but Russia doesn't see it that way. It can be the perspective of the narrative in the United States that the U.S. is not involved. Russia does not see it that way. The U.S. provided missiles like ATACMS, provided the training and the equipment, and then asked the guy standing next to them, special forces in Ukraine, press that button to blow up the Russian flagship. Russia doesn't see that as Ukrainian attacking.
I don't.
Well, they do because they're not attacking. They're not like
Russian
attacking
state
us
officials
in the United
and
States.
media have already said we are at war with NATO.
Yeah, I mean, they always believe that. But I agree, they do believe that we're. I agree with all that. I just don't think.
Right. So let's put
that
it
means
simply.
that we're actually going to get into a military conflict with.
In no courtroom would you be able to claim that you were not involved in the murder of a person when you handed the gun to the guy, asked him to do it, and told him to pull the trigger.
And we gave him the equipment. Of course, I'm with you.
So that means the U.S. is literally at war with Russia.
And then I disagree that we technically are neither.
Yeah,
We're not legally at war with Russia because Congress hasn't declared.
Yeah, we weren't
and
legally
we
at war with Vietnam either. It was a police action. There was no declaration of war.
We're going to have to sacrifice American soldiers to invade Russia, or Russia's going to do that to us. There's not really a threat.
First of all, Luke, I think it's very naive on your part to pretend that there's not American special forces who are in Ukraine right now doing all sorts of sabotage mission, training ops, all sorts of things. Like, it's totally naive to believe that in every other theater that we're involved in, where we're training people in advisory roles.
I think you think you're debating with someone.
We're always.
That's not what I'm claiming.
Well, you say you make the claim like no boots on the ground, no boots on the. It's like there's already boots on the ground though. We already have. I guarantee we already have special forces boots on the ground.
If you don't hear what I'm saying, then
Look, I think foreign wars in general are a big waste of money. It's not a W for us. It's an L. Let's just be honest here. This whole situation with Russia and aggression, containing it, it's to fund the military-industrial complex. We need to be able to rationalize and justify our armament. So we need to go ahead and have this conflict with Russia, when in reality we need to figure out some type of diplomatic middle ground with them versus having an issue with a nuclear-armed power.
Capable.
I think peace is the way to go. But we want to sit here and substantiate our military-industrial complex, which is problematic.
Okay, Russia. It's so strange. Russia was the one who violated peace. We had peace, and then Russia made it no longer peace. And then they were fighting, and we went, I mean, a little bit before.
We were promising not to expand NATO for decades, and we keep doing it.
Actually, we never formally promised that, but
Formally.
yeah.
It was a memo. It wasn't a treaty.
Yeah.
Number one, but number two, was that
anyone
we
can be
didn't
NATO.
invite Ukraine into NATO. Is that what you guys talked about? Like, there was no offer.
Before they invaded, Ukraine specifically said, we're not going to be we're not entering NATO, and the United States was like, yeah, it's not happening, and Russia still invaded.
It is not.
Let's clarify. The issue wasn't NATO. The issue was the European Union. And so Vladimir Putin went to Ukraine and said, if you open up your borders to trade with Europe, and we have open borders with you, European goods will flood into Russia and it'll destabilize our economy. So you have to choose either Europe or Russia. The issue was Ukraine largely was like, you mean we get access to the Schengen zone and European trade, but we lose Russia? Russia got pissed and said, no, hold on. We need Sevastopol. We need Crimea. We can't lose that to the West. Now you can make the arguments about what you think happened with the ousting of Yanukovych. A lot of people believe that it was U.S. aid and the CIA that went in to help foment these groups that ultimately stormed his mansion and ousted the guy, forced him to flee to Russia. But this bubbling conflict in the country and political destabilization was definitely both Russia and NATO, Western forces, vying through political means to gain control of Ukraine. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that all that dynamic is very important. And I don't think Russia should have a say in
so it's not like they just invaded out of nowhere. You know what I mean? I think it's important to understand,
what?
Yeah, that is. It's what you were just you kind of just back off immediately on your own position right away.
You clearly don't even know what my own position is. I'm saying all of those things contribute. That doesn't make it justified. Someone can be.
No, you said there was peace, and then Russia violated it, and then backed off in the position the second it was clarified by Tim.
Wait. Hold on.
There. But what are you talking about?
I don't think that was a contradiction.
That was
you could say
okay.
You could say that
our position. I think me and Andrew's position
God.
is we need to stop sending aid to Ukraine and end this.
Yeah, we got your position.
That's our
you
position.
You can violate peace for a reason. He had a reason. I just don't think it's a justified reason. We shouldn't have started a war over it.
Let's ask the simple question.
Can you acknowledge there's a difference between what you just said, Andrew?
No. Your implication was everyone was minding their own business and getting along fine, and then the Russians moved into the Ukraine, right?
Everything was perfect.
Let's ask the question that Myron brought up. Should we cut off the aid and just say no more involvement in Ukraine?
Zero.
No. I don't think so.
I think
No.
end all aid, stop it, and end the fight now. Like, we need to end it now.
If Ukraine wanted to end the fight, then we could figure out what.
Wait,
Who cares
We're
what they
not
think?
at the mercy of
Hold
the
on.
Ukraine.
Let me say this.
They're
If
the
we're
ones
funding
fighting.
the
We're
war-
not gonna start
If
our
we're
end
funding
war.
the conflict, we're giving them all the aid. We dictate what happens. I
That's
find
not
it
true,
interesting
but,
how we let these other countries like Israel, Ukraine, dictate our foreign policy. We give you the money. We tell you what it is. Fuck that.
It's not true. Ukraine would, or we.
Tell Zelensky, hey, dumbass, we put you in power. You do what we say.
Well, I just want to
Let
say
me ask you these questions.
It's
This question.
wild.
What is the strategic, economic, or otherwise benefit of our involvement in Ukraine?
my understanding is
Zero.
That
Well, go ahead.
fuck you.
Yeah. 0.8.
But also,
Zero
fuck
aid.
you, no.
Zero benefit.
My
Best
understanding.
answer of the debate so far.
Fuck you or zero. My understanding is, this should not be the primary motivator, and I'm not sure that it is. But if you take just morality out of the equation, looking at Russia as a geopolitical rival, they have been weakened as a consequence of this. Now, you can say that they're going to win, and certainly they have still the stronger military, but they are not in a better position now than they were prior to the war, number one. Number two, we consider Ukraine an ally. We consider them somebody that, we have diplomatic and economic incentives for them to succeed. Also, by definition, the European Union as well. So it seems like we have diplomatic and economic reasons and to try to weaken Russia, number one.
Yes.
But I just want to be clear, at least for me, and I'm sure Luke would agree, if Ukraine did not want to fight, like, I don't think we should be forcing or coercing Ukraine to fight. If they decide, like, you know what, fuck it, we've resisted, let's have either a settlement or just wave the white flag all the way around. I mean, I think it would suck that we were empowering and rewarding Putin, but like at that point, yes, the aid should be cut off. But my understanding is they still want to fight and they just need help. So
Who is they, though?
Ukrainian people, right? Isn't there in the
they've
Ukrainian
largely-
government?
Zelensky wants to fight.
Well, I believe that largely the population has either resisted conscription or fled the country.
Yeah.
Not the majority, I'm saying, but
Oh, I'm sure there's people doing that. Yeah,
I mean, they're drafting women and elderly.
You
They're
can-
not-
So I don't
you can
think
pull a
people want to
polling.
fight.
I'm sorry.
I'm
You're right.
curious.
To be clear,
People.
I'm sure the number of people who want to pick up a gun and fight Russian soldiers, I'm sure that number
And that's
has
what matters.
diminished.
Not the puppet that we put in place.
No,
not
I agree,
even-
it's
not
just
even
leaders.
Zelensky.
Let's not even
It's
call it
public
puppet. Let's just say
opinion. It's
the
public opinion.
government of a small group of people. Do you guys believe that the small government, this limited amount of people, have a right to force the people of Ukraine through conscription to go fight a war?
No, I'm saying. Well, I mean, yeah. If they have
or no?
drafts, they could probably draft people. Yeah.
So the question then becomes, when you say
I'm
Ukraine
saying-
wants to fight, you're talking
No.
about the
That's what I was about to
oligarchs and the
specify.
politicians,
That's what I
not
was
the
about to
people.
specify. Yeah, I was about to
Well,
specify.
what they're
No, no.
actually
Wait. Just let me specify.
and-
If
and-
public opinion
real
was
quick.
against it, I would say, well, they
And it's an important
democratically
thing.
should listen to the public opinion.
The government of Ukraine has largely been described for decades as an oligarchy. You guys know how the oligarchy formed
and
in Ukraine?
corrupt, super
Very corrupt.
Let
corrupt.
me answer your question.
I'm
You
making
asked the question.
Sure. I'm making a point about the structure of the government. That's why I asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
After the fall of the Soviet Union, the general story is that you've got these Soviet factories, for instance. They run up the chain of command through the Communist Party. That's how the Soviet Union ran. When the Soviet Union collapses and Ukraine effectively becomes its own state, where does this factory answer to now that the party has been shattered? What happens was, there's one story of a guy, one of the oligarchs, got a couple of his buddies with some guns, walked into the factory and said, "Who's in charge?" And I'm the foreman. And they say, "Okay, we're going to take care of everything for you. We're the bosses. This is our factory now." And they say, "Well, what does that mean?" It means all the supplies you need to come in and make the factory work, we will take care of, but you answer to me. And the worker said, "That sounds great to us, actually, because we don't know who we're supposed to answer to." This created a massive wealth gap in Ukraine for decades, where you had a very small group of ultra-wealthy individuals. One of the most interesting things I found about Kiev is that the price of a condo or a house was comparable to a house or a condo in the United States, despite the fact that these people were making about $400 a month. Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.